In November 2012 we had Far Cry 3, followed by Far Cry Blood Dragon half a year later. Far Cry 4 would already launch in November 2014 and Far Cry Primal soon after in February 2016. And New Dawn would launch not even a year after Far Cry 5 in February 2019. Every big mainline Far Cry game Ubisoft put out was followed by a $30–40 release in the next 12 months, so I find it hard to believe that it will be different for Far Cry 6. You could also point at the 6-month long post-launch plan that we also had for Far Cry 5, while most Ubisoft games nowadays get supported for at least a full year. It all lines up with a theory I have for what this Far Cry 6.5 game will be about. We got many in-game teases and also even interviews with Michael Mondo that hint at the same. A new game where we play as Vaas. So a ton to discuss. If you at any point like the video, then leaving a like on it would of course really be appreciated, and let's go. One big thing that these smaller spin-off Far Cry games have in common is that Ubisoft wants to use as many assets from that previous mainline title as possible. In particular, the map is mostly going to be the same. Ubisoft was not upfront about this for Primal, so everyone was surprised when on Reddit it was discovered that Primal had the same roads and rivers compared to Far Cry 4, which you can really see when you put the two maps next to each other. Even Far Cry Blood Dragon secretly used a pretty sizable part of the Far Cry 3 map, the right section of South Island with a small piece of the North Island. Now of course, in Far Cry New Dawn, it was very clear that we would play in Hope County again, because that spin-off game was set 17 years after the nuclear ending of Far Cry 5. So just a high chance that this Far Cry 6 spin-off will still be in Yara, so they can use a lot of work they've already done and launch the game faster. New Dawn was only in development for around a year, which is very short for a quote-unquote new game. Now first I had a theory about how we might be fighting alongside younger versions of the Legends, who we of course meet and do missions for during one of the 3 main storylines in Far Cry 6. And while doing these missions, you hear about how they pushed back against the regime of the father of Anton in 1967 and succeeded, so that's how they ended up with the name Legends of 67. So I think it would be cool to go back in time and play out the sequences we heard about in Far Cry 6, but I think only a small group of people that actually played Far Cry 6 would agree. While with a Vaas game, I think Ubisoft can get way more people excited, even players who did not buy Far Cry 6. And maybe this was the plan all along, because out of nowhere during the ending of Far Cry 6, we hear a very familiar smuggler.
You know, he's so sad about that Castillo kid. I mean, what his papa did. Wow, that is crazy.
Man, a tragedy.
Well, you know, some people are just sick in the mind, hermano. They're out of control.
Up until this point, we were not sure if Vaas died in Far Cry 3 or not, but he is indeed still there, as Far Cry 6 takes place after Far Cry 3. And if you're still not sure, then the secret ending for the Vaas Season Pass DLC will push you over the edge. If you namely finish that content on the highest difficulty, you will see a cutscene with older Vaas saying that if that ever came to him, he would grab it by the throat and kill it. Likely not how that really happened, but he did survive the final scene with Jason and now made it to the shore of Yara. Now why this is even more interesting is that because for both the Pagan Min and Joseph Seed DLC we did not get a visual secret ending, only an audio log where with the Pagan Min DLC it became clear that he was the person behind the nuclear attack at the end of Far Cry 5. And in the Joseph Seed secret ending, which was another audio file, we hear Joseph call his wife Fate a couple of times. So this is not the Fate from the game, but his actual wife, who is also called Fate and died in a car accident, and who is the mother of Ethan. So we basically learned that he goes on to find other women that look like his wife and call them Fate. It's pretty interesting stuff, but it's all linked to past events. While for Vaas, they really went out of their way to create a new design. Lee Chanlei, and I hope I pronounced that right, from Ubisoft Shanghai even shared concept art of multiple iterations with the description Vaas in old age. a lot of designs we did not see in the Vaas DLC. Okay, it's not 100% clear that Vaas is sitting on a beach in Yara here, or that the conversation with Juan is in Yara, but at the end of the Stranger Things mission they just launched for Far Cry 6, we spot a very familiar looking character at the bar where Danny gets teleported to. Maybe you noticed it as well, but this is also 100% Vaas. Hangover or just tired, sleeping on the bar. He doesn't move, but this once again proves you that he's still alive, he's in Yara, and that we might see more of him in the future. Vaas also says on the beach that he and his tennis ball friends are going to do some big things together, which could also be a tease for this potential spin-off game. Michael Mondo, the man of course behind Vaas, also did a couple of interviews around the launch of the Insanity DLC in November 2021, including one with Geek Culture, talking about bringing the character back for the Far Cry 6 Season Pass and what it could mean for the future.
How do we bring it back? And I think bringing it back in a downloadable content is great because it's just a small tease. It's just a kind of like an appetizer and telling them, you know, the character's still around. Hopefully the fans love it. And then, you know, when that goes out and hopefully, you know, people are as excited to play it as we have been to present it to them. And then we'll see where we can take it from there.
Okay. Dan Allen was also able to interview Michael around that same time, where he notes that he already has some ideas.
Tell me you're exploring a movie or another game, man. I mean, you must be. Please.
I know the fans been asking for it for a while, and I've been teasing about it, and the truth is I have something written. I have something written that I really like.
In that same interview, he also says that he still needs to talk in depth with Ubisoft about his ideas, but he could also just be dancing around the idea of a new Vaas game, because it's of course not announced yet. If it happens though, it seems to be a combination between an origin story and maybe what he's up to now.
If I was to go visit it again, it wouldn't be in the same fashion. It wouldn't be just to kind of like more of that. It'll be to bring it way back and then to start it small and then to make it way bigger at the end and mean something. So there's a lot of ideas there that's where my interest is you know, who was this guy before the Mohawk, before the injury, before he completely lost his mind? Because he's definitely incredibly smart, you know, and he's a formidable kind of military type guy. Or agent or something. We'll see. So I don't want to talk too much, but we'll see.
That seems to be another big tease. In Far Cry 6, Juan even notes that at some point he was selling drugs to the CIA, which could be linked to Vaas, as at the end of Far Cry 6 he's selling Viviro, the drugs used in Far Cry 6, to Vaas, at least from the sounds of it. Now your theories are of course more than welcome in the comments down below. I think this game is going to happen either at the end of this year or in early 2023. This will likely be the final cross-generation Far Cry game before we move on to Far Cry 7, which is going to be next-gen only. And according to Jason Schreier from Bloomberg, it could go in a radically different direction, which also tracks with a source of Axion, who said that the company was exploring a more online-oriented approach for the sequel. And I also still think that the QR code in Far Cry 6 is something completely different, likely a free-to-play PvPvE Far Cry game, with the coordinates for the sort of QR codes after you scan it going to Las Vegas, and it totally gives this sort of game show vibe. Remember that I'm just speculating here, nothing about the future of Far Cry has been confirmed, although I do think I'm onto something with the Vaas game and the free-to-play PvEVP game, and then after that we likely get Far Cry 7, where they will add multiple islands or other completely different countries over time in the post-launch. When we know more about the future of Far Cry, I'll be the first to tell you here, so totally subscribe to miss nothing. A like on the video would of course really help me out, and totally check out our previous video on likely the final updates to Far Cry 6, including that Stranger Things mission. You can watch that video by clicking on the screen. For now though, I will speak to you in the next one. Goodbye.